The Galactic Council Chamber was built to show power. It was a hall of endless light and shadow, a place where thousands of voices once rose to argue about laws, trade, or war. Today, however, there was silence. The long walls of glowing gold stretched like rivers of fire, but no one looked at them. Every eye was fixed on one group, the humans. The humans sat in silence. They were few compared to the hundreds of alien delegates filling the chamber, yet their presence carried weight far beyond numbers. They had been invited here for peace talks. The galaxy had expected them to argue, to plead, perhaps even to beg. But they did not. They only sat still, their eyes calm, their faces unreadable. The council members shifted in their seats. Whispers rose and fell like waves. The Valith, tall and insect-like, clicked their mandibles nervously. The Corran, scaled and broad, folded their arms but said nothing. Even the proud Ziyari, known for never showing fear, avoided looking directly at the humans. The Speaker of the Council finally broke the silence. His voice echoed through the hall. Humans of Earth, we are gathered here for peace. We offer you this chance to end hostilities, to accept the terms we place before you. Speak now, so the galaxy may move forward. For a long moment, nothing happened. The humans did not answer. One of them, a tall man in a dark suit, leaned forward as if to rise, but then stopped. Another, a woman with sharp eyes, shook her head slightly. It was as if they were speaking to each other without words, deciding something no alien could hear. The silence grew heavier. It pressed on every delegate like a weight. Finally, the humans stood. Chairs scraped against the polished floor. Every movement echoed like thunder. Slowly, without a single word, they turned their backs on the council. Step by step, they began to walk toward the great golden doors at the far end of the chamber. Gasps filled the air. Whispers turned to shouts. "What are they doing?" one alien demanded. "Why do they leave?" another asked. The council speaker slammed his hand against the table. "Humans, stop. You cannot walk away from this." His voice cracked, but the humans did not slow. They walked in perfect silence, their footsteps measured and calm. No anger showed on their faces. No fear. Only a strange, quiet certainty. The Ziyari delegate leaned toward her neighbor, her voice low but trembling. "Do they not want peace? Why turn away now?" No one answered her. No one could. The doors began to open, glowing gold flooding into the chamber like the rising sun. The humans stepped into that light. For a moment, their figures looked larger than life, shadows stretching across the floor. Panic grew in the chamber. The insectoid Valith hissed, "This is madness. They refuse us. They insult us all." Others shouted for guards, for translators, for someone to explain what was happening. But there was nothing to explain. The humans kept walking. The council speaker rose from his throne, his long robe dragging across the steps as he rushed forward. "If you leave now, there will be no turning back." His voice broke again, desperate. The lead human paused at the threshold. Every eye locked on him. The chamber held its breath. Would he speak? Would he turn? But he did nothing. He simply walked through the door and vanished into the light. One by one, the others followed until the chamber was empty of humans. A silence deeper than before filled the hall. The delegates looked at one another, fear in their eyes. For the first time, many realized that the humans had not come for peace. They had only come to listen. And now they had decided. The insectoid Valith muttered again, almost to himself, "They do not want peace. They will choose war." The Corran leader slammed his fist against the table. "Fools! We should have forced them to agree." The Ziyari delegate shook her head. "No, they are too calm, too silent. This is not the walk of people who lost. This is the walk of those who already know they have won." The chamber froze at her words. At last, the council speaker sank back into his seat, his shoulders heavy. His voice came soft, but clear enough for all to hear. "If they leave, it means we have already lost." No one argued. No one dared. Beyond the golden doors, human footsteps echoed into silence, carrying with them the weight of a galaxy's mistake. The council chamber trembled, not from war, not from battle, but from a truth no one wanted to face. Humanity had walked away, and in that single act, they had claimed something greater than any treaty could offer. They had claimed power. And the galaxy, for all its strength and pride, realized too late what it had done. The chamber remained heavy with silence long after the humans were gone. The golden doors had closed, but their echoes seemed to linger in every corner of the hall. The alien delegates sat stiff, their voices caught in their throats, as if they feared to speak. It was not just the absence of words, it was the weight of something greater. Something had shifted, and everyone knew it. At last, one voice broke the quiet. It was the youngest delegate of the Valith, his sharp mandibles clattering nervously. They walked away. They did not even answer us. Do they think we are unworthy of a reply? His elder silenced him with a sharp hiss. Be still. Do you not feel it? That silence was not weakness. On the other side of the chamber, a scaled Corran delegate leaned forward, his deep voice carrying across the room. Then what was it? An insult? A threat? The Zayari delegate, who had spoken earlier, kept her gaze fixed on the golden doors. It was neither. It was a message. Her words rippled through the room, leaving unease in their wake. Some nodded, others frowned, but no one dared to dismiss the thought. Then, one of the aides rushed in from a side entrance. His breathing was ragged, his face pale. He held a datapad tight in his hands. Counselors, he stammered, reports are coming in. Human fleets have moved from their borders. Every head turned sharply. The aide continued, his voice trembling. They are repositioning. Quietly. No declarations. No warnings. Just movement. Entire formations are shifting, vanishing from usual patrol routes, and reappearing at the edges of council-controlled systems. A murmur of alarm ran through the chamber. Impossible, the Corran snarled. We would have seen it sooner. They planned this, the aide whispered. They knew they would leave this chamber. They knew what would follow. They wasted no time. The council speaker closed his eyes, his old voice tired. Then the silence was not the end. It was the beginning. Another delegate shouted from across the table, his voice shaking. What are they preparing for? If they wanted war, why not declare it here? Why not threaten us openly? The Zayari delegate turned to him slowly, her dark eyes unblinking. Because they do not need to threaten. Their silence is enough. The chamber erupted in voices, sharp and fearful. Some demanded the council act at once, others insisted the humans were bluffing. But beneath the noise was a deeper fear that none dared to speak. Humanity had outmaneuvered them all, not with weapons, not with words, but with silence. In the shadows of the chamber, one elder delegate leaned close to his aide and whispered what many already suspected. We pushed them too far. We treated them as weak, as children. And now, they will show us what strength truly is. The golden light flickered across the walls, bright and blinding, but it brought no comfort. The council sat in its own fear, trapped in the echo of footsteps that no longer rang in the hall. The council chamber dimmed as the hours passed, but no one left. Delegates who had once been proud rulers of their own systems now sat with unease twisting in their stomachs. The golden walls, once symbols of authority and order, now felt like prison bars closing in. At last, one of the archivists was summoned. A frail being with translucent skin and a voice like wind, he shuffled forward, holding an old datapad. There is something you must hear, he said, his tone quiet but urgent. Something from the humans, long ago. The delegates turned sharply. The room stilled. The archivist touched the pad, and a recording flickered into the air above the council table. The image was grainy, but clear enough. A human officer stood there, dressed in dark military attire, his eyes sharp and voice steady. We will always listen, the officer said. We will always give a chance for peace. But remember this, humans forgive, but humans never forget. If you betray our trust, the silence that follows will be your only warning. The recording ended. A cold hush fell over the chamber. The Valith elder clacked his mandibles together nervously. Never forget, silence as warning. He shifted in his seat, the memory of the humans walking away replaying in his mind. The Corran growled, but his voice lacked its usual strength. That was only an old speech. It means nothing now. Does it? the Zayari delegate asked softly. Her piercing eyes swept the chamber. They walked away today without a word. No threats, no anger. Only silence. Exactly as they said they would. And while we sit here, their fleets move. No one replied. Then, without warning, the chamber shook with the sudden tone of an incoming alert. A deep hum resonated through the walls as the central holoscreen lit up. Council guards rushed forward, but the image was already clear. Scanners had detected something vast, approaching the edges of Council space. Not one ship. Not one fleet. But many. Human dreadnoughts, larger than any built by the Council races, had appeared on long-range sensors. Their formation was deliberate, precise. They moved like shadows across the stars, silent and steady. No demands were sent. No declarations. Only silence. Fear rippled through the hall. They are not even trying to hide it, whispered the insectoid delegate, his antennae trembling. They want us to see. They want us to know. The council speaker's voice was hoarse as he spoke. They warned us. We did not listen. And now the warning has come. Every eye turned to the golden doors where the humans had left. It seemed, even now, that their presence lingered. The chamber grew still again, but this time, the silence carried no dignity. It carried only dread. The council chamber filled again with noise, but it was not the confident noise of debate. It was panic, fear wearing the mask of authority. Delegates shouted across the long golden table, their voices sharp and cracking, demanding answers no one could give. The image of the human fleets remained on the central holoscreen, silent giants drifting across the stars, and the silence between each alien voice only made the fear worse. The speaker struck his staff against the floor, the sound echoing like a thunderclap. "Order!" he shouted, though even he sounded desperate. "We must send word to our allies. The humans cannot be allowed to do this alone." A delegate from the Valith hissed at once. "Yes, call the Drevis. Call the Zyran. They will not allow the humans to rise unchecked." But the Zayari delegate's voice cut through the room like a blade. "And if they refuse? Do you not see? The humans have planned every step. Why do you think they walked away without a word? They knew we would panic. They knew we would seek allies. And they know," she paused, her dark eyes narrowing. "They know none will answer us." The chamber froze. The Koran slammed his fist on the table, shaking the glasses of water beside him. "Nonsense. Our allies will come. They must come." He turned to his aides. "Send the call. Now." Messengers rushed out, their footsteps echoing down the side halls. For a moment, the chamber waited, each second stretching like an eternity. Delegates tried to breathe calmly, but the silence from their allies weighed heavier and heavier. At last, one messenger returned, his face pale and voice unsteady. "The Zyran will not answer." A chill swept across the room. Another aide stumbled in moments later. "The Drevis send regrets. They cannot involve themselves." Shouts erupted. Some cursed, others begged for confirmation, but the reports kept coming. One by one, the names of potential allies fell into silence. Not a single race was willing to rise against the humans. The speaker leaned forward, gripping the edge of his throne with trembling hands. His voice came low, hollow, almost broken. "They fear humanity more than they fear us." The insectoid delegate's mandibles clicked nervously. "So, we are alone." The Zayari delegate leaned back in her chair, her voice cold as stone. "Not alone. Surrounded." Every eye turned again to the image of the human fleets. Dreadnoughts drifted like silent mountains across the black, their sheer size mocking the council's once mighty power. Not a word came from them. No demand, no treaty, no declaration. Only silence. And silence, they realized, was worse than war. The fleets spread across the stars like shadows cast by unseen giants. One system after another reported the same thing: human ships had arrived. They did not fire, they did not transmit, they did not even announce their presence. They simply moved into orbit, their colossal silhouettes blocking out the light of suns, their weapons silent but aimed. In the council chamber, the delegates leaned toward the central holoscreen as new reports streamed in. The silence of those transmissions was more frightening than the sound of battle. Each display showed the same scene, vast human dreadnoughts hanging in the void, their hulls reflecting cold starlight, their engines dim as if they had no need to burn fuel to hold their ground. One delegate whispered, "They wait." Another hissed, "For what?" No one could answer. The speaker turned his tired eyes toward the chamber. His voice was unsteady, but it reached every ear. "Do you not see? They do not need to fire. They do not need to speak. Their silence is already louder than war." The insectoid delegate shifted in his seat, his antennae trembling. "It is a game. They wait for us to make the first mistake. They wait for fear to break us." The Zayari delegate's expression was grim. "And it is working." Across the chamber, shouts erupted as factions accused one another. Some claimed that others had pushed the humans too far. Some demanded preemptive strikes. Others screamed that such a move would doom them all. The council chamber, once a place of unity, was breaking apart piece by piece. But still, the humans did nothing. In the systems under their watch, markets closed, citizens hid in shelters, and fleets scrambled into defensive formations, yet no human ship made a move. They hovered like silent watchers, patient and unshaken. The fear was not in what they did, but in what they did not do. Every hour that passed without action was worse than battle. Every moment of silence weighed heavier than the clash of weapons. It was as though humanity had woven fear itself into a weapon, sharper than any blade, stronger than any fleet. The council speaker whispered words he had never thought he would say. "Perhaps they have already won." His voice was not met with argument. Not this time. For deep in their hearts, the delegates knew it was true. The golden chamber that had once symbolized unity was now drowning in chaos. The delegates no longer spoke with measured words or calm tones. They shouted, accused, and cursed across the table, their voices colliding in a storm of fear. The silence of the human fleets outside had seeped into their hearts, breaking their fragile alliances apart. The insectoid Valith slammed his claw against the table, his mandibles clicking in rage. "This is the fault of the Corran. You were the ones who mocked humanity first. You were the ones who demanded we crush them." The scaled Corran leader roared, his tail slamming against the marble floor. "Do not twist truth, insect. You all agreed when it suited you. We voted together to push them down. Now you hide behind your fear like cowards." The Zayari delegate rose to her feet, her eyes glowing in the dim light. "Enough. Blame will not save you. Do you not see what is happening? They do not fire a single weapon, and still we are tearing ourselves apart. Humans do not need to destroy us. We are destroying ourselves." Her words cut through the shouting for only a moment, then the storm began again. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others called for secret negotiations. A few, desperate and trembling, spoke of launching a strike before the humans grew bolder. The chamber split into factions, each voice sharp with panic. Outside the chamber, the fear spread even faster. Civilian reports flooded in, riots in the streets, colonies declaring independence from council oversight, fleets refusing to follow orders. The very structure of the council's power was collapsing piece by piece, and still the humans said nothing. The speaker sat in silence on his throne, his old eyes dim with defeat. He did not shout, did not argue. He only listened as the council broke itself apart. His hands trembled as he spoke at last, his voice soft, almost drowned by the noise. "We begged for peace on our terms, and now we see their answer. This silence is our punishment." Few heard him. Fewer still cared. The chamber was no longer a council, it was a battlefield of fear. And above it all, across the stars, the human fleets waited, calm, unmoving, patient. Their silence was more powerful than any fleet the galaxy had ever built. The chamber was no longer the same place it had once been. The golden walls still glowed, but their light seemed dim, fragile, unable to hide the cracks spreading through the council's unity. Delegates sat slumped in their chairs, their voices hoarse from shouting, their pride drained by fear. The silence of humanity weighed on them like an endless shadow, pressing heavier with every passing hour. At last, the speaker rose. His steps were slow, his robes dragging across the polished floor, but the chamber fell quiet as he lifted his hand. His voice, though weary, carried across the room. We have argued. We have blamed. We have broken ourselves. But none of this will stop what is coming. Only one choice remains. We must reach out to Earth. We must beg for talks again. The word beg left a bitter taste in many mouths. Some shifted uncomfortably, others whispered in disbelief. Yet no one offered another solution. The silence outside had stolen every argument. Messengers were summoned. A transmission was prepared, words chosen with care. The delegates, once arrogant rulers of their own empires, debated not on what demands to make but on how to soften their pleas. Every sentence was rewritten to sound humble. Every word was measured to avoid insult. Finally, the message was complete. It was sent across the stars toward Earth. The chamber held its breath. Minutes turned to hours. Delegates stared at the holoscreen, waiting for a reply. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. At last, a signal came. The council leaned forward, desperate, clinging to hope. The screen flickered. A single transmission played. It was empty. No voice. No face. Only static. The silence grew heavier. The Zayari delegate gripped the edge of the table, her sharp nails digging into the polished surface. "They heard us," she whispered. "But they choose not to answer." The Koran leader's scales rippled with unease. They refuse to even acknowledge us." The speaker closed his eyes, his head bowing under the weight of despair. "This is their judgment. They warned us once. We did not listen. Now they leave us to drown in our own fear." Around the chamber, the strongest leaders of the galaxy sat in silence, broken by a silence greater still. The silence dragged on for days. The council, once a fortress of voices and power, had become a hollow shell. Delegates came and went, but none carried strength in their steps anymore. The golden walls still shone, but to the eyes of those inside, they were nothing more than the glow of a dying fire. Reports kept arriving, human fleets in every corner of council space, silent, watching, immovable. They fired no weapons, claimed no worlds, made no demands. And yet the galaxy bent beneath their presence. Civilizations under council rule began to break away. Some worlds declared themselves independent, swearing loyalty to humanity before a single human soldier had even set foot there. Others fell into chaos, their leaders too afraid to act without knowing what the humans would allow. Trade collapsed. Fleets refused to obey their own admirals. Entire sectors slipped into disorder. And all the while, the humans said nothing. The council grew desperate. More messages were sent, pleas wrapped in humility, offers of apology, promises of tribute. Each one was swallowed by the same terrible silence. Then, without warning, the silence broke. In the chamber, the central holoscreen flickered to life. Every delegate froze, their eyes fixed on the light. For the first time since the humans had walked away, a transmission had come. The chamber leaned forward as one, desperate to hear anything at all. A human voice filled the air. Calm, steady, cold. "Peace was offered once. You refused." The words cut through the chamber like a blade. No threats followed. No demands. Nothing more. The screen went dark. The silence that followed was worse than before. Delegates sat frozen, their faces pale, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of what had been said, and what had not. The Zayari delegate whispered, almost to herself, "That is their final word." The speaker bowed his head, his voice hollow. "No, it is their final judgment." Around him, the most powerful rulers of the galaxy sat in despair. No war had been fought. No weapons had been fired. And yet the council had already lost. Humanity had walked away, and in doing so, they had claimed victory without lifting a hand. The galaxy belonged to them now.